Welcome, folks, to Let's Just Go. This is Kevin and Casey's Modern Missionary Podcast, where we talk ministry and mission, adventures, family, life and death, leukemia, barbecue, just the whole spirit of going for it in life.
Today's title is Miracle Community Out of Our Disaster, a.k.a. Miracle on Nakula Street.
Miracle out of Nakula Street.
No, on. Out of.
On it.
I guess out of goes too.
This is part 2 of our three-part mini podcast series.
I know. We got
Casey's leukemia journey.
Podcast that has parts.
We didn't want to do like a really long podcast and split into 3 parts and say, watch this in 3 sections. We wanted them to kind of stand out each on their own. Mm-hmm. And I think that keeps us from rushing through and also just focuses us. Last time we did July 6th, Casey's Day of Disaster. And I think it was good isolating some of that story into one sit down together.
That was a good thing. And I feel like that initial part helps kind of set up the rest of the story because that is what got us into the mess in the first place.
The actual episode.
The day
what
of
got
death.
us into the mess in the first place.
Yep.
Are we going to retitle these? Maybe we will.
Maybe.
I like July 6th, Casey's Day of Disaster.
Death.
So. Oh, Casey's
This one
Day
has
of
disaster. Yeah.
Death. Your Day of Disaster.
She is such a disaster.
She is so disastrous.
I kind of was a disaster.
So
but
this
that's
is
okay.
miracle stories, community miracle
Yes.
from our disaster.
Yes. A huge part of the whole process for us of going through this journey is the community. It's an important story to tell. It took a little bit of an adjustment on my part because for you were very open to, letting people in and knowing what was going on, especially for prayer and for, visiting and all the coordinations you had to do. But it took me a little bit to be comfortable with sharing what was going on. I don't really know exactly what that was about, but I felt like, it was private. Like there's this thing that happens. Why are you laughing?
Oh, because I don't think I pushed you into it. I think there were 2 cases going on. There was, I'm private, and there was also, you were doing the everybody in. I mean, you were on drugs.
That's true.
and they opened up, you were near death.
Yeah.
And it opened you up. And you were willingly inviting people to come in. And so it wasn't your personality versus my personality. It was my personality and your personality against your personality.
Well, maybe that's true. But the one thing is that it was a little bit like there's one thing with letting people in and helping with the family and all of that. But, people wanted to come into my hospital room and, I would drool. And I fell asleep like mid-conversation with people.
Pass out.
And I would pass out for 15 minutes and I'd wake up and everyone would just be sitting there looking at me. And that is a little bit, humiliating. It's not really humiliating, but it's like...
Oh, yeah.
It's a side of you that people don't get to see. Like it's you are at your lowest point.
Yeah, and
ever.
you brought people in.
Yeah.
To that.
But that was hard.
Yeah. Well, some good stories come from it, and I think we were just beforehand going through some of the points that maybe we want to cover, and they kind of come down to 2 big ones, and one is the many corners of help that popped into existence.
Right.
And the second big one was just a series of precious moments that we wouldn't give up for anything.
Yeah. I think first, though, we should do a little bit of a recap. It was titled Casey's Day of Death, and we basically went through the July 6th, which is the day that I ended up going into the emergency room.
A survival rate of 24%. Survival rate means we're going to put several more years on your calendar. We're interested in the cure rate, which is 4%. And so 96% stacked against you. I think those numbers are important to me because it tells me what was beat.
Yeah.
In fact, there was a guy who had the exact same thing that you did in the room next. He had the chemo treatments, went home, did the sick thing, came back. All the disease came back, no indication that it was beat. Did the next round, went home, came back, all of it comes back. And this guy, he just died. And he had the same time frame, the same thing, the same room as you, and he just went straight to death. And that was the thing, that was beat.
So the next part of the story is being brought up from the emergency room into a room and them telling me that the next phase was to get me strong enough so that I could start chemotherapy and what all that was going to mean, which made me realize that this thing that was going on was significantly going to change our whole life. And it was starting to dawn on me, what was in store as far as what I was going to have to endure, as far as treatment, our family dynamic, completely changing ministry stuff. So it was like going to bring on a whole shift. I mean, I had to have a brain scan, a lung scan. They did some kind of test on my eyes, just everything they had to do to get my body to be ready to receive chemotherapy. And they wanted that all to happen really quickly. And I was on it for 24/7. So 24 hours for 7 days. So basically it was constant for 7 days. That included...
It's like Drano.
Yeah. That included
7 days.
So many things because I think I had to have my blood drawn like 4 times a day. I had to have the tubes they put inside my chest for me to be able to receive the chemotherapy, blood transfusions. I mean, I had so many blood transfusions.
They created a portal.
Yeah, a portal.
Like
That's what they called it. Yes.
In your chest where all the different treatment could come.
Right. Medication, blood, and chemotherapy. Yeah, those were the 3 ports that I had. Bone marrow biopsy, which is the first time I remember meeting Dr. Choi, who ended up he was my oncologist. He gave me my first bone marrow biopsy, which was scary.
They prep everyone in the room to get ready to hold you down because this is one of the max pain things while they're tapping into your bone.
Yeah.
And I mean, literally hand drilling.
Yes.
With this auger.
They twist and pull out a piece of your bone, kind of like they do with ice when they take ice samples. The one thing I really loved about Dr. Choi is he conferred with other doctors, and you could tell he loved what he was doing. And I feel like...
he wanted this case, too.
Yes, he was very interested in this.
And the other doctors would remark about that he wanted this case.
Yeah.
And he was attached to you, too, I think, and the kids.
Yeah. I think that's one of the other things is I remember one of the first visits where everyone came into my new hospital room where I was going to be for a while, and the family came in. And I remember that was like the talk of the whole floor was like, oh my gosh, how many kids do you have? Oh my gosh, your family is so beautiful. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that, how are you all going to survive this? How are you going to deal with this? There was like all of this talk about our family. And you want to know what one of the number one things that people said was that, oh my gosh, I can see that you guys love each other so much. And I thought that was really interesting that was like one of the qualities that they saw in our family together.
The community and people farther out start seeing this, and it comes onto their radar. And one of the things that really helped was your sister putting together the GoFundMe account.
Yeah, that was huge. It was one of those things where I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds great when she kind of came and talked to me about it. And I know that you and her had a full discussion, but she just felt like she wanted to be able to set this up for the situation that we were in, to be able to have help to pay for the expenses of what this colossal thing in front of us could mean.
Well, the timing was interesting because we actually in this very narrow window of time, we went off insurance.
Yes.
And this was when the Affordable Care Act was passed, and it hit Hawaii more uniquely than it did other places. It was basically all the insurances kind of turned into Cobra, where you have to pay thousands of dollars for a short period of time until they get the systems fixed, and no one can afford thousands of dollars each month.
Right.
And while they were getting it fixed, all sorts of residents throughout Hawaii lost their insurance. They got them canceled. And all of a sudden this happens. This is the time frame when this jumped onto the radar. And so we're talking with the people at the hospital, and they connected the dots for us, and they got us on some insurance, but not until a whole load of initial things came due. And we were looking at about a $75,000 bill to keep things going.
You know, I look back on that and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is like the stories you hear on the news. The families lose their insurance and then they get cancer. But like, yet when I look back on that, it's just another series in steps where we were completely provided for.
Yeah, I was listening the other day, and you know what the average GoFundMe actually turns out to be? It's like $3,000.
Yeah.
That's how much people average out to get. We needed $75,000, and your sister put that up. And there was a time at which I called her and I told her,
Yeah, look at that
we have
number.
met the mark.
Yeah.
That was something that just hundreds of people got connected to our story through that. They were people from our past. The military brings in a new population and then flushes it out.
Yeah.
The turnover every 2 or 3 years, and then new population comes in and they spread out across the world. And so there's this network out there that got tapped into by Save Casey's Life.
Yeah.
T-shirts that say,
I know. A friend from high school actually volunteered to make shirts that said "Pray for Casey" and sold those as a fundraiser. And also our really good friend Jordan, she committed to every Wednesday praying for Casey. And so she would put out like a reminder to people, and she did that the whole time.
I mean, do you remember we would get, a dozen cards a day, boxes and envelopes, and there were gift cards, $50 here, $100 there. Some of it was just straight back to school money. Some of it was to,
for eating establishments, because I remember there was a lot of eating out. That was we had a friend who, I think it was their church, they collected a whole bunch of gift cards and just sent them in a package.
There was a time where we were going to 3 chapel services while I was, on a Sunday. We'd go to a Catholic service, and we'd go to a general Protestant service and a Black gospel service. And those who were full-time staff and interns, they had a rotation of doing the same sorts of things. And we had all these different portals of humans.
Yeah.
Programs at the schools. We were a connection between the different churches and the pastors. And every single one of those became their own place where they organized prayers and givings to you. And they were connected to us, and it came back to us. All those connected lines came back to us.
We had stories of people who would be at Sunday school classes or Bible studies at different locations, and people would say that I needed to be prayed for. And that would be a connection. They'd be like, oh, we've been praying for her too.
Remember our chaplain came back, and he was like, he had to go on a visit to Stuttgart, Germany, and he went and joined in on a Bible study. He was going to offer a prayer request for you, and during prayer request time, the group says we have to remember to pray for Casey Schmidt in Hawaii. I'm in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Here I am in Stuttgart, Germany.
I remember getting a whole envelope full of letters from a church in North Carolina, and I remember getting knitted like shawls. Somebody who collected scarves gave me like
Minnie Lou?
Yeah, she gave me her whole collection of scarves, to wear. There was another lady who at church, they went to chapel. She had gone through breast cancer, and she one day brought me this beanie, like it was a knit like stocking cap. It was really pretty. And she said, this kept my head warm and got me through a lot. And she's like, I'm just going to pass this on to you. And so it was very comfortable. And I wore that almost all the time on my head. But as a reminder that there are also other people who have gone through that kind of a thing.
Remember all the rainbows?
Oh my gosh. This is the best part of the whole story.
You should talk about your connection with rainbows.
Yeah.
And how that was known and then it became more known.
Yeah. Rainbows are more than just a bow of color in the air. They became this connecting thing. In Hawaii, rainbows are everywhere. And they put me in a room knowing that I had a big family that was like on the corner of the floor that I was on. And half of it was windows.
In Waikiki.
And yes, it faced towards Waikiki, and there would be rainbows out my window. I remember the first time they moved me into that room, I looked out the window and there was a rainbow. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then the next day, there was a rainbow. And the next day and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, what? Is God trying to show me something? And it just became this thing. And I started to take pictures of the rainbows outside of my hospital room. And one of the really cool things that happened is that people started to take pictures of rainbows wherever they were, all over the world. And they would send me pictures of rainbows, and they'd be like, Casey, we're thinking of you. There'd be sprinklers going, and there'd be like a rainbow in the mist, and people would take pictures of those and send them to me, and they're like, Casey, this is a reminder. We're thinking of you. And it became this whole beautiful, universal thing, a reminder to me that there are people out there thinking about me, praying about me, but also, and more intimately, beautiful thing that God was giving me. It's just a symbol of promises. And even, if I died, there are still promises that you can hold on to and you can depend on. And I just felt like God was just saying, you can depend on me.
It was just an incredible connection. The GoFundMe was a point of connection. Hey, I can chip in and do something, then turn into other things. But the rainbow was a reason that people could text you and message you.
Yeah.
And the rainbows were reminding their minds. And so when they saw a rainbow, then its natural connection was you. Oh, there's a rainbow. Send it to Casey, praying for you. It was like God had his song recorded so that all the different peoples could be reminded and think about praying. And so rainbows, there was a call out, there's this lady named Casey, and she is all about rainbows. She's fighting for her life from cancer, and people send her rainbow connection.
Yeah.
Rainbow
connection.
There's so many songs about rainbows. Oh my gosh.
You need to do that in your Kermit the Frog voice.
And what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, but only illusions. That's how he says it. Rainbows have nothing to hide. Someday we'll find it. The rainbow connection. The lovers, the dreamers, and... Now I'm going to go back and check out the words of Kermit the Frog on that.
There was another song that I listened to a lot, and it was True Colors by Phil Collins.
Oh.
And I see your true colors shining through. And it talks about you're beautiful like a rainbow. And I was like, okay, this is like a theme song. This is a theme song. That song meant a lot to me during that time.
The rainbows also stand for inclusivity and the way that it connected so many different, folks. It makes me think about the box of letters that we got from a cousin of mine from California.
Full of rainbow stuff. Rainbow socks, rainbow cards, very colorful. I loved it.
Rainbow messages. The variance to that real eclectic crowd, though, is that they were briefed that you were a Christian and that you prayed to Jesus.
Yeah.
And they were encouraged to pray to Jesus, and they were very eclectically not so much all about that. And that came out in the messages without any apology. Like, well, I've never prayed to Jesus and I don't believe in him, but I'm going to give it a go. And they would write out a prayer to Jesus. And others were like, I am sending energy to you and that you would be strengthened by your Jesus. And they were trying to figure out how to do it and how to do your language and their language without anything being erased.
Yeah.
They don't erase themselves. They don't erase you. And to open up each one of those letters and to read different things like that was hilarious, and it was touching.
Yeah.
It was illuminating. Wasn't it illuminating?
Yeah.
It made for some good doctrine, I think.
Yeah. I really appreciated that. I think I decided early on that I was just going to let people express themselves the way that they wanted to. I know that when, you have a heart for somebody who's going through something traumatic and you feel like you don't want to say anything because you don't know how to. I mean, I just decided I was going to give a lot of grace to people, however it came out, as long as they were willing to express their condolences or whatever it was. I was going to accept it. I wasn't going to be harsh on people and their awkwardness in wanting to share anything with me. And so I just received it all.
That's something I would love to encourage people to think about.
Yeah.
There were a couple of voices along the way that came in and they were saying, people, when they're dying, people say the wrong things to them and they should just keep their mouths shut. And I remember hearing some of this advice, but I was like, no, I don't think you're right at all. And why do you have to take that attitude? I mean, people are coming and they're needing to express stuff. A lot of times you're the first person who they've had be dying.
Yeah.
Where they're trying out what to say to that person. And you're like, of course they're going to say it wrong if there is that. But they're here and they're working it out. And I mean, why do you have to be a victim? We reminded each other is that what an awesome privilege for people to come.
Yeah.
And to think about the end of life and how you should posture yourself going into it. And then to open up their mouth and express and try to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, who was I to talk? Because they would come in and visit me in the hospital and I would just be talking and then I'd fall asleep and I'd wake up and I'd have drool like running down my face. And it's like...
Well, I think you also told people things that you might not have told them if you were completely sober.
That's true. That's true. But... another thing about moving into the hospital room that was going to be my living space for the next several weeks was interesting because remember how I was really obsessed with being able to have a Keurig or something in there so people could drink tea or coffee. And it's really funny
because there was a whole receiving area.
Yes, there was a receiving area because I wanted to be hospitable to people who came in. And I remember the nurses, they were really not looking forward to disappointing me, but they sent in the big guns, the head. And she was like, we are so sorry, but you cannot have any appliances that you plug in this room. And I was so disappointed, but it was really funny because for some reason I knew I was going to be there a long time. And if people came into that room, I wanted them to feel comfortable and have something to do. I don't know, that was really on my mind is even in the hospital was like being hospitable to people who wanted to come and visit me.
It turned into, there was a pilgrimage.
Yeah.
There was a pilgrimage to Casey. You really were like this Mecca. There were folks that didn't know you and hadn't met you. Mm-hmm. And we would get a call or a knock on the door, and they were like, you don't know me, but I was talking to so-and-so, and, you know, I've been going through this thing in my life, and they told me that I should come and visit you and to just talk to you a little bit. And we're like, what is this? And then they would talk to you, and I remember some of them just making remarks about what they had experienced. There was something magical that was happening.
Yeah. Well, that room, I felt like God was in that room. People would come and visit, and, you know, I didn't really know what to think of that. It made me a little uncomfortable, but people would show up and they would just share things. And I'm like, wow, this is really like big stuff. Then we would pray, and I just felt like God would do stuff in that moment when we were praying for those things. And it kind of became like this very like open thing for me. Like, okay, well, it's not like I could run away from people who wanted to come visit me. You know, you're like in a bed and people are wanting to come and they're wanting to express their sorrow or touch base with you or have a conversation with you. And, you know, you're kind of like in a situation where you feel alone because you're going through something that could kill you. And it actually was comforting to have people come in. But I never knew what was going to be the topic or what we were going to end up talking about, and always ended up being something really deep and profound.
I remember
there was a lot of really good prayer.
I remember a very good buddy of mine coming in, and, you know, he was at a crossroads with some things, and he was like, I got to talk to Casey and see, you know, God told me to come in and hear what she has to say. And I had to leave. I think it was meeting someone downstairs in the hospital, and I come back right as he's finished. He comes out, and he's like, "Ooh, buddy." He goes, "That was hard, and that was the right thing. I gotta go." And then I go into the room, and you're like, I don't know what I told him and said, but something happened.
So there were moments like that. Like, I, to this day, have no idea what I told him.
Somebody knows.
But so there was this really interesting thing going on. I really do feel like God's presence was in that room. I feel like the boundary between like the physical,
world,
the mortal and the immortal, the physical and the spiritual, I feel like it was like thinned out. There were things that happened, and granted, you know, I was on medication.
That helps.
But
helps get
that
you there.
helps dull the inhibitions that you might have, you know, otherwise. And I really feel like, I mean, God showed me a lot that still are profound things to me to this day. God was dealing with me with things, but also with other people. And there was just like this ability to just be a participant and observe that. That was pretty incredible. But there were some things that I told people that I don't remember. And I know that what I was saying was profound, but I do not remember what I said.
You were in heavenly spaces and in different ways, and you had hallucinations about that. Mm-hmm. We should share just a little bit about that, because I think it was a gift of experiences that had some healing effects on you.
There were some funny ones that I had when people would visit. There was a mustache that would always, it was like a caterpillar. It looked like Einstein's mustache, and it would always like go across my feet when I was talking to people. And so I would be talking, and then I'd be like, ha 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 ha. And Especially the kids, they'd be like, Mom, what are you laughing at? I was like, didn't you see that caterpillar? And I knew they didn't. I knew that they couldn't see what I. Yes, I knew I was seeing hallucinations, and those would happen like when other people were there. There was a monkey that would come out of the cabinet across the room, and he would like come down and like hang above people's heads and kind of make funny faces, and I would laugh at that one too. But the more profound ones were I would dream it, but I would also see it when I wasn't quite asleep. You're kind of in that twilight stage where you can hear sounds and perceive things, but you're not really awake either. But there was like a hospital curtain that was pulled, and it was translucent, and there was like light coming from the other side. And it wasn't quite pulled all the way together, so there was a crack. And I could see the people on the other side of that curtain, and I wanted to be over there. They were planning. It actually looked like, there's that big scene in Star Wars where everyone is standing around that big, like, war game board.
Many people died to bring us this information.
Yes. And they're all like planning on, what their war plans, what they're going to do. And it seemed like that. Everyone had a job and had a function, and there was joy in it, and there was excitement in it, and they were all moving towards something. And I really wanted to be over there so I could see what they were doing. And when I thought about it, later, I thought, I think that that's what heaven is like. That's heaven. That's a picture. Because one of the things you have to come to terms with when you think you're going to die is, what are you going to? Like, what is, and there's like apprehension, there's fear, like of the unknown. And I felt like what I saw in that, it gave me so much peace, which is what God was really working with me on, was just in my soul being okay with death. But I could see what heaven was like. And what it is it's not a place where you go and you just stand around and you like worship Jesus or worship God for centuries. There is a plan. People are doing things. You have a purpose there. Like, I felt like I wanted to get over there because I was going to get my purpose over there. I was going to be able to have a job over there. And I realized that you are going to have jobs. There is movement towards something in heaven. Like, it's not just this static place where, everyone's in a mansion. And so that gave me a lot of relief in my place there. Like, I just, I want to go to heaven and I want to be useful. And I feel like God showed me that. The other thing is that, and this one is like way more touching. It's, if I felt like God was intimately talking to me. There's just this wrestling about heaven and dying and what is that like? And I had this reoccurring hallucination vision. I think it was more of a vision, but there would be these kids that would come. There was 4 of them, and they would come into my hospital room, and there was a recliner, and the oldest girl, she would get on the recliner and she would peek her head over, and the 3 other kids in the dream would sit on the other side, and she would peek her head over and she'd say boo, and they'd all be like, ha ha ha. She was entertaining them. And I actually saw this vision like several times. And I think the reason why is because in my mind, I was trying to figure out what it was. And one day I saw it, and I looked at those kids, and they were blonde hair and blue-eyed, and they looked like the rest of our young children. And when I saw them, I realized that they were my children, because at this point I had like 5 miscarriages, and that, I think it weighed on me way more than I would give it credit for. It dawned on me that what I was seeing were my children, and what that showed me was that I have people
My
in
children
heaven,
too.
and your children too. Yes, our children. But that there are people in heaven waiting for us. We have children we've never met before that are waiting for us. We have people who have gone on before us. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh my gosh, this is where, I am okay to be there. It was like a moment. It was like a moment of letting go. And that was like, those two really put me at peace with dying. Like, I was like, okay, I'm good to go. I'm good.
You
with it.
crossing that thin line into that territory and them crossing it into yours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What a great picture.
And but that first week in the hospital, God was like working on me. He was showing me. He was like, you're going to lay here and you're not going to be able to do anything. And I'm going to show you what
We're going to turn you into
do.
a pilgrimage, though.
Yeah, I guess.
One fascinating thing, too, was the Father Jack was the Catholic priest. Everybody loved him, well-respected, leader of the multiple site Catholic community. And leading up to this event, we had stood up and given a strong advocacy for the Catholic community and what they stood for. Mm-hmm. So they were endeared to us, and all of a sudden the endearment comes back at us in spades, and you had a special connection with Father Jack for some reason. But you want to share what you got to experience with him?
Well, yeah, he really wanted to give me my last rites.
Which is one of the sacraments.
Right, one of the sacraments.
A good Catholic.
Which I wasn't Catholic, but, it's an important thing to do. So he just expressed a desire to be able to do that. And so he actually came to the hospital. As we were standing around, I thanked him, for being there and doing that for me. And I told him that he was my soulmate. And everybody laughs about that. Everyone was standing around. They were like giggling.
And I'm like, I thought I was your soulmate. Right? Like, you were half drunk on drugs.
Yeah, and I was like, I mean kindred spirit.
I think I told you. Do you mean kindred spirit?
Yeah, I think maybe you did. Yeah, kindred spirit. But
that was really funny.
It was funny, and we still laugh about that I told a priest that he was my soulmate. But that was actually a very special thing that he did in the prayer and the anointing me with oil.
The Catholic community put together like a perpetual prayer. So 24 hours a day, someone was in the sanctuary of one of the parishes praying for you. Yeah. And so you're there for an hour, 3 a.m., someone else shows up and they're from 4 to 5 a.m.
Yeah,
and it
pretty
went
incredible.
Hour to hour for a full week one time. People came and prayed the rosary.
Mm-hmm. I think there was a blanket, which I still have today, that they prayed like a special blessing or anointed it, but they brought it to me and I used it in the hospital. Mm-hmm. And that's still one of my favorite blankets today. Actually, it was Delilah's favorite blanket for a very long time. Meals were made for our family 3 times a week, all the way through December when I was completely finished with my, all my chemotherapy treatments and my hospital stays.
That's amazing.
Yeah. There were people that wanted to come in and, clean our house for us. School started and there were people that wanted to take our kids out and take them back to school shopping. And so
on their dime.
Yeah, on their dime. And little things like that too. I think about your sister came and visited. And I think she visited me once or twice in the hospital. Maybe it was more. I might not remember. But I feel like her main purpose was to take our kids out and do things with them so that they felt loved and not forgotten.
Do practical helping.
And practical helping.
Yeah.
Our families came in, and I think they didn't necessarily know exactly what they were supposed to be doing, but there was this family support that was there. just to sit at my bedside with me, my sister showing up and, she doing the GoFundMe, but also, she's a nurse and she made sure that all the T's were crossed and the I's were
Is
dotted.
everything actually really happening
and
that needs to happen?
Can you explain this to me? And why would you do this? And why didn't you do this? And, things, she was like, she had my back in a very good way.
Your mom was there to go through it with you.
Oh, yes.
Especially the worst parts. That was endearing too.
That's true. There was that.
She brought we're going to feel all of the feels.
Yes.
Aren't we?
Oh, man. Yes.
And all that stuff's important. You know, I think my dad came, with the question of how's Kevin doing. I think my mom was there to remind us that there is flesh and blood family too. And because it was this everybody in sort of thing happening, that was actually important because we were like everybody in. There was a tug of war to maintain both of those things that needed to be there. And I wonder if we would have just spun out into oblivion and belonged to the ether if we didn't have all of those inputs.
Right. Yeah. I actually give Rachel Francis a lot of credit for being in the house and helping keep the kids on track, and also having to, I think she did a lot of dealing with the people who the debate. Yes, the community that
next?
wanted to come in, and also the family that was there. I feel like she did a lot.
She was right at the crossroads of where all of the conflict of the positive help was going to negotiate into effect. Yeah. And I think this is important. So Rachel Francis, is Roman Catholic, and she's on staff with us. Pacific House of Mission was actually originally founded in order to be able to hire missionary staff that are both Protestant and Catholic, because no other organization existed like that, especially that could go into a military community with its technical access.
Because it serves both communities,
And so this was this bridge the Catholic community really appreciated and wrote in on. And they did so much that there was a time that Hannah, our daughter, and Rachel, our daughter, they summed up how much they were loving you, even though you're not Catholic. And Hannah stomps into the living room. She takes 2 feet, just firm, solid on the ground, boom, boom, like she's ready to fight. And she just announced, she goes, I want to become Catholic.
Yep.
And right after her, Rachel steps up, boom, boom. And she goes, I want to be Catholic. They wanted to give their whole identity to this community because they had given
so much
to you and to us and to the family.
Yeah.
And the bonds of trust and love and courage were just really strengthened through all of this fight for a strong core, but also an everybody in, just that dialectic of both of those things.
The communities just really stepped up. I remember there was a garage sale that was organized for a fundraiser. People who would go give blood.
Oh, right. There was lots of giving of blood and blood drives.
People who donated, signed up for the bone marrow registry, so that if in the future I needed, or whoever needed, because it not just benefited me, but one of the things was finding a bone marrow match. If I ended up having to get a bone marrow transplant, and there were people that were willing to do that, and I was like, "Whoa!"
They wanted to go be the one that could do the DNA.
Yeah.
If they couldn't be a match, even with with blood donations, then they could be somebody else's.
Yeah.
Knowing that somebody else was yours.
And I mean, I had so many blood transfusions. I just. I think that's one of the saddest things that came out of all of this, is that I can't give blood. I remember in the hospital, I was very fortunate because I'm O positive, so I am like the universal receiver. So I could receive, but there were times where they were calling other islands to get blood. Do you remember that? Because it was in such short supply. And
It being flown in.
yeah, being flown in. And you're just like, oh, wow, this is like one of those things that you say is important, but you don't really realize how important it is until you need it.
Do we want to just mention a couple of precious moments that we haven't mentioned?
Yeah.
We might have said something about it, but obviously one of our concerns is what do we do with the kids and their emotional well-being and needing to, continue the regular healthy rhythms of life and everything. The surprise for me is that the strength flowed the other direction. Our kids became an asset to us. And that really opened up my eyes as to the nature of children. They are indestructible to some degree. And they're loyal, they're resilient, they're forgiving. And a lot of families, I think, don't take advantage of that. They have a lot to give. I mean, Jesus said, from the mouths of babes, you speak your truths. And there really is a need to dial in to what is coming from them. They really are an asset to enrich a family, and they were incredibly strong and provided support for us. You can't ask kids to not step up because they're the vulnerable ones. Are they the vulnerable ones? Are we the ones that are more loyal? Are we the ones who are more forgiving? Are we the ones that have the more faith? Who's the real vulnerable ones? And I saw that maybe we're the vulnerable ones, and they're the ones where strength, comes from.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that helps us see that was, we were stretched. What's interesting is that year I decided I was going to homeschool. Well, I'd been homeschooling Jordan, but I decided I was also going to homeschool Hannah.
The two oldest
daughters, Hannah and Jordan. So they were home, and part of what they stepped up to do is that they would wake up in the morning and they would get the kids up and ready for school. So the elementary school kids still went to public school. So they would get them up, they would get them breakfast, and they would get them out the door. And we lived close enough where the kids walked to school, but that became their duty in the morning, is getting their siblings up and ready for school in the morning and making sure they got out the door on time. And then they would do their own school and also have Delilah at home, because was Micah still at home too? Yeah, Micah was still at home too. So Delilah and Micah would be at home. And then when everyone got home, they participated in making dinner and cleaning up and the whole routine. So they really helped keep the family routine going.
So these are two teenage girls whose mom is in the hospital dying. Dad is flying all over the place. They are two kids of 9, and they're doing all of the essential runnings of house and the amount of growing up. Yeah.
They became little moms, essentially.
And they were in charge.
Yeah.
Took it like a boss. And, my boys, meanwhile, I remember David coming to me, and he's going to give me a report. David's the oldest, still in high school. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Dad, I just, thought I'd give you a kind of a report on how the kids are doing. This one, probably needing some more, attention because of this or that. But by and large, everybody's, functioning well. Their grades are going good. You're doing a good job getting enough visits in, to mom. And I'm like, here's my boy giving me a status report that I did not ask for.
Of what was going on in the family.
I thought I'd catch you up, Papa, on how everything's going. Here's your report. And that just that blew me away. The way the strength and the support came from them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just I was thankful that they were taking care of themselves, they were taking care of me. And
They
were
were
taking
taking
care
care of you.
of each other. I had an experience separate. And in many ways, your experience was different than mine.
Yeah. A lot different.
In years past, we've kind of revisited, and you said, I don't even have, there were songs that our family had that were like our there was the Valley song. You have led me through the valley,
By Jars of Clay.
by Jars of Clay.
Yeah, that's a
And
good
that was a family song that we would sing together and weep over. And it comes on the radio now and then, and we remember it all dearly, and it doesn't affect you. You're like, and I'm not even attached.
Well, I love that song, but yeah, it definitely does not affect me
You
in the
weren't
way
there
it
in
does.
the moments. Before you had gotten sick, then one of the experiences I always would have walking onto a big beach with all of these kids is that you would see people up and down the beach see this horde, and they were like, oh, they all belong to each other. And then they would put their finger in the air and they would, point, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what's funny is you could actually see what someone across the beach was doing because they were pointing at you and their finger was going 1, 2, and you could see their mouths because you could read their lips. Those are simple things to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then they would turn to somebody and you could see their lips say, there's 9 of them. It's what everyone always said. There's 9 of them. But during this time, they would do something else. And I saw it on the lips of a lot of people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 of them. And they all did this. Then their lips would say, where's the mom? And I became familiar with that lip reading. Where's the mom? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 9 of them. Where's the mom? I don't know why that really
Stuck with you.
Yeah, because I could go over there and I could tell them, well, she's fighting for her life and she's going to make it. But that was also a picture of what my whole life could be like
Right.
after that point.
That reminds me of the story of Micah. He walks in with everybody and then he looks at me. And then he looks over to all of you on the other side of the room. He goes, Dad, is Mom part of our family anymore?
It had been a long time since they'd seen you. Several days is a long time. They wanted to spend some time there. I was like, we're gonna spend several hours here. And they came in and he brought his cars.
Yeah.
And he had the mask on, which is way too
Those
big.
gloves
He's
that
got
were
those
huge.
gloves, tiny gloves, which are way too big. And he just wanted to stay in there. And, he wasn't talking to you so much or having conversations. He was just wanting to be there. He's that way now.
Yeah.
He comes out to the garage with me at night when I'm studying outside in the freezing cold. And he just does something next to me. Yeah. And he wanted to be next to his mom. He was playing the cars on the ground, and that had been going on for a while. And you could just, how he sings?
Yeah.
And you could tell that his heart was hitting all of the right notes. And he looks up to you and he asked you directly. And he said, Mom, are you still part of our family?
I remember all of those things, not necessarily that they were all together, but yes, I remember.
With Micah, what touched me was how important it was that he was around you.
Yes.
And that was being starved out. But he was like, I will stay here and be in these things that are too big for me and play on this hard floor forever. If I could just keep on being here. To hear him ask that question gave you a window into his soul and his imaginations. Are they taking Mom away from the family? Does she have to be around a certain amount of time before you can be part of the family? how do I stay a part of the family?
Yeah. What is that all about?
What makes a family be a family? That's one of the most vivid memories of that entire thing is Micah looking up and asking that question.
As much stress and pressure that a mom can put on herself, I really found peace in the fact that I could concentrate on where I was and what I was doing and the healing. And I was not stressed at all in the fact that things were being taken care of. Like I knew that you were gonna take care of the kids the way that I would take care of the kids. Like you and I were together on that. I know the amount of commitment and resolve and sense of responsibility that you have for your family and for the ministry and for doing things right in a way that also lets people be who they are. I had so much confidence in you, and I was really able to give that peace to you. It doesn't mean that my heart didn't ache for being with my kids, but I think once I got through that, the trust, I mean, I trusted in you to do everything to care for our kids. And even if I passed away, I knew that they would be well cared for and taken care of. That's one of the things that there can be a lot of stress that comes into play because people don't know what to do, or they've depended on, especially I think married couples, they've depended on the other one to do things or not do things, or this is what you're in charge of and this is what I'm in charge of. And there's not the shifting of like, well, you got this and I got this, and things aren't split evenly. You don't have 50% and I don't have 50%. There's like this moment where someday you're going to have 100%.
Coming to the end of this, and I just kind of wrote these several things down that are some principles or facts, that happen in our case. How did the miracle community pop into, existence, from the midst of our disaster? And one of the things, I've got 5 things down here. Number 1 is there was a pre-community investment before all of this, an engagement of the community, not knowing how to fully wield it, but that kicked in later and fed back at us. A second one is that there was this disease and lethal treatment thrust upon you historically that we couldn't have anticipated. But it brought new opportunities, challenges that only history can plan. Number 3 was there was this faith centrifuge going on, this exercise of, let's do faith. Another one is that in the midst of that, there is an everybody in mentality. There's an inclusion despite the vulnerability and the privacy and all of that. There was an openness to not just whatever strength, but whatever weakness and insufficiency. And number 5 is God's Spirit getting people there, Him triggering them with what they were dealing with to be a piece of all of this. It became a story that was, shared beyond even just the people that we know.
Yeah.
All those things being said, did we do it?
We did it. What's next is the next episode, number 3. It will be called Rainbow Level Winning.
Boom.
Boom.
Catch you next time. Peace out.
Bye.
You can do it. Another year passes by as I'm looking at